hope you are doing well on this lovely, lovely afternoon. Evening, even. Um, I have a huge ass roast ham here because I am sunburned. Because this little Dutch guy went out and saw the sun for the first time in a year, and that felt amazing. I will not lie. It was beautiful, and now I will pay the price by being a bit crispy. Tonight we have over at Alvarado. He is a very prolific guy, and he's going to talk about the influence of families on your political proclivities. So, getting started on that, here we go and introduce Ed. Hello there.
How's it going, Mike? I guess it's sunny in the Netherlands.
It is, it is. It's really sunny. It's a beautiful Ascension Day. Everyone is off, and we are just all outside. It's quite noisy outside. I believe there are some garden parties going on. So apologies in advance if that is a bit bothersome. I hope my microphone is set up in such a way that that is filtered out. But you can't blame people from having a bit of fun. Hopefully they do it responsibly.
It's
Um,
true.
how are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Not as nice weather in Hamburg. It's pretty rainy, so yeah, I guess I've been told this is Hamburg weather. Um, but yeah, no, all good. Yeah, so I can do a very quick introduction. Although
Yes,
I'm sure
please.
yeah, well, I'm sure whoever's listening in will hear the very American accent. I think that's yeah, it's fine. It's fair to say that I grew up in the States. Yeah, I was born in Mexico, spent 12 years there, then spent 13 years in Kansas. This is where I did my bachelor's and my master's. Or no, actually, my master's was in Vienna. Um, yeah, so I've kind of been all over the place. This is why I kind of lose track of it.
A man of the world.
Yeah, but sometimes you kind of want to just settle somewhere after moving too much. Yeah, for now it's Hamburg. So let's hope that it's a bit more longer term.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, same thing in the same way that geographically I move a lot of places. Yeah, academically I'm also a bit all over the place. I've studied economics, philosophy, international relations, and then I did almost did a minor in computer science. But I also work with marketing now, so a bit also all over the
Wow.
place.
You are all over the
Uh,
place. That's cool.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think yeah. Any other questions? I'm happy to kind of just answer as they come along.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. If I may ask, what made you decide to go to Europe?
Ooh, good question. I mean, I did an exchange in Italy for 6 months in Bologna, and that was super awesome. And yeah, I just really enjoyed the variety of cultures and languages that you have within just the short space here. So you have, I
Right.
mean, I did my master's in Vienna, and you could take a 45-minute train ride and be in Bratislava, where it's a whole different language, history, culture, and you're just like, what? Um, so I think that's way cooler than the other side of the Atlantic, where you draw a line. It's like here English, here South Spanish, and so yeah.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's nicer to have the variety.
I mean, if nothing else, Europe is a big variety, which is also a bit funny, right? Because you don't really hear that. Like, if Americans at least go to Europe, they are sometimes a bit flabbergasted about the idea of there being so much variety because it's Europe, right? That's you go to the nation of Europe rather than a actual thing. Which, to be fair, Europeans also have with the States, and we don't even know all that much about Mexico, of course. So I think that must be a very interesting perspective you might have on that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what's also making it's a cool difference between yeah, Europe and like for example, it's funny also within people like even involved, you hear people talking about the United States of Europe, but I'm like, well, like in a sense, Europe has things that the US doesn't. I mean, the US started off as one country technically, and it is one, but
Right,
there's so many US. I mean, you have Texans and Californians and New Yorkers, and they're not friends of each other necessarily.
right.
Um, And I think this is also one reason why they're dividing more over there, whereas here there's always kind of like the union being built, and there's always kind of like
Right.
yes, yeah. So I think we underestimate how united Europe is versus how united or how divided the U.S. is. So anyway, I
Okay.
feel like
Wow.
when people talk about a melting pot of cultures, I think it's more in Europe than in the US, but they're the ones with the marketing slogan. So
And I mean, also a century more of nation building, so they've got that down.
yeah,
Anyway, oh, sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Over.
all good, all good. Hello, Lord Little, and welcome to our chat. Thank you for the follow. Amazing. So we have here Ed. Ed has been a member of Volt for quite a while now, and that was actually going to be my next question. How did you join? How did you find and how did you join Volt?
Yeah, very randomly actually. It was one thing where I left my job and I kind of took some holidays all of August,
Right,
and yeah, I had my fun and stuff. But then occasionally I would go through LinkedIn and everything, and at some point I saw, I think it was a LinkedIn post, somebody tagged Volt or talked about Volt. There was a Volt post. Somehow I ran into it, and I was like, oh, what is this? And I started
right.
investigating a bit about it, and yeah, I mean, even like the intentions behind why Volt started and everything is very much in line with what I did after my master's.
Right.
Um, so yeah, long story short, I was like, yeah, this sounds like something that I already tried to do years ago, getting involved with kind of more pro-Europeanism.
Cool.
And now it seems like it's something that's picking up more, and it's already in a lot of places in Europe. So why not join and try to help out? So
That
yeah.
sounds really cool. What made you want to join European politics? That's super fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. The funny part there would be my studies because I did a master's in international relations, and
Ah,
my master's especially because I did my master's thesis on EU citizen, well, on the history of citizenship all the way to EU citizenship and talking about like the analysis of it and the history of EU citizenship. And I kind of thought, this is kind of like the first truly international citizenship that exists. And this is what
right.
I pretty much always talk about, but I wanted to change it up today. But yeah, so that's kind of the thing. It's when you talk about an international citizenry, it's Europe. So
That's, I mean, that's definitely true. It's something that also really attracted me to Volt. The idea of pan Europeanism, as it's just a really big experiment, right? So it fascinates me how we try to tackle the topics that we just haven't ever managed to go to. Um, yeah, it's just really interesting to me how we can shape something up transnationally and overcome those different institutional differences as well, right? Because that it's more than just feeling European. It's also actually being European legally or uh, creating a shared identity. It's very comprehensive.
yeah, for sure. And I think some people focus too much on whether there's a European culture or not. I think internally people would say there isn't because you can easily draw a line between somebody who's German and somebody who's Dutch or whatever.
Yeah,
But externally, as somebody who spent, his, uh, teenagerhood, adult, mid-adult, young adulthood, whatever it's called, adolescence, that's what it is. As somebody who spent his adolescence in the US, I can tell you that you come to Europe and there is such a thing as Europeans and kind of like a European type of personality, lifestyle, that sort of thing.
right.
Uh, so
Well, don't tell the populist right this because they would be very upset by this notion.
yeah, my joke about that is always that like if you start telling them they all act like very European, so many Europeans would agree that it's almost like the far right people will be like, no, 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 we're very German, and then no, 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 we're very, yeah, I don't know, like Dutch or Italian or something, and then it's like, but we
Yeah,
would outnumber them. So then what would they do? Create a union and say, no, let's create a union saying that we're all different. It's like sounds kind of like a European Union that you have to create just to say that you're not the same. It's yeah, totally
and
long story there.
and that's how you get the right conservative fraction in the EU, right? That's that's a big thing. They join hands together in European unity to make sure that Europe has no right to exist. Amazing.
Yeah. It's the irony, amazing.
I feel the European spirit right there. Peace.
Yeah, for
Anyway,
sure.
that's actually not what we're going to talk about tonight. Interesting as that may be, hopefully, maybe another time. Because tonight we are actually going to talk about families. This is going to be a family night, people. We are going to talk about how your families affect your politics. And let's do that. Let's define some borders here because it's important to know what we're really talking about, right? It's not just the way you were raised with all your environmental factors. It's really your parents, your siblings, right? Anything else, or what's the scope of this tonight?
Yeah, I would definitely say the focus would be precisely family in terms of like parents and siblings for the most part, and then you could also
Right.
talk about extended families. The
Ooh.
focus would be more precisely this, like anybody who study international relations might hear this about the whole idea of realism, right? Like where it's like a state is like a person and like all. I mean, before you can get into all that theoretical stuff, you'd have to think, okay, the first interactions that we all have with other people is with our family. I mean, you're born into a authority structure, which is your parents. You may or may not have siblings, which teaches you kind of dynamics of your peers versus the structure. You
Right.
can, there's so many ways to make an analogy that at the end of the day, we are all shaped by the environment that we grew up in as kids. And of course,
Yeah.
there's adolescence, and then there's like adulthood. But at the end of the day, the very first, what, 12 years at least, we were very much in this environment that was our family, and whatever was preached to us then, most of us probably didn't question. And yeah, there's probably very much still an influence from when you were a kid and what your parents did or said, whether it was about society or to each other. So anyway, we can go into all the details a
Yeah.
bit
No,
as we go along.
perfectly. That's it's a very big thing to talk about, even though like the niche sounds really small. It's just oh, politics and family. 5 minutes. We got that down in 5 minutes, easy. But the way you brought it up was you have top down, right? The hierarchical structure, the horizontal structure, um, really all about that. And how can it go? Because you also see with traumatized people having weird family relations, for example, having also weird political proclivities sometimes. There have actually been a few studies about that, as far as I know. And yes, awesome that you're here, Scrambled Egg Chef. Really cool to see you, and welcome. So, also a bit of audience interaction here. We have Ed over, just to reiterate, we are talking family and politics, and in a later bit, we're going to play Age of Empires 2. Side note on that is that we're also going to talk a bit about our own formative years. I think it's always nice to put some anecdotes in here as well. My earlier years were very interesting, and the moment Ed suggested this talk, I instantly got triggered by tons of flashbacks. You know, that was it was really cool. Um, so let's get started with that.
Sounds
So
good.
Ed, could you maybe ask or maybe grace us with an introduction of the theme? Do you have anything to kick it off with?
Um, I guess no, since this is kind of like two of us chatting about the topic, I would say
Yes.
basically, how would you say, I mean, I'll obviously give my opinion first, but like, how would you say that your parents might have taught you about, let's say, mm, yeah, I mean, even just like structures? Because for me, for
Right.
example, this is actually something that, I mean, I could go so many ways with this topic, but it can also be affected by culture, whether you grow up in an environment where, let's say like uh, you have a parents who are very, strict and they don't let you do anything.
Right.
I mean, studies have shown that if you have very strict parents, as an adolescent, you're probably going to be a bit more of a rebel, that sort of thing. If you have
Right.
parents who let you do too many things, sometimes people end up, going a bit off the, off the wire, kind of getting a bit too crazy. And so at the end of the day, um, I've also, I was just, chatting with a friend recently that like for me, I'm very privileged in the environment that I grew up in because I grew up in a very Mexican household, which a lot of times can be very patriarchal in a sense, where like the dad
Right.
kind of makes the laws and how creates the rules.
Yeah.
However, because of the relationship my parents had with each other, it never really was that. I mean, it's one of those where you could almost say my dad was like, "This is how things are done," and my mom's like, "But we should do it this way." And he's like, "Right, maybe we should do it this way." So it's like, you know. And so I'm always curious to hear how other people's experience is because for me, that's where it kind of started, and this is why it's easy for me. Like, if a government says something, it's like, well, but why? It's like, because they say so. Well, let's think about whether this is the right way to do it. Does everybody,
Right.
is it efficient? Is it, oppressive? I mean, again, we're immediately talking about political terms when really we're just talking about, how were your parents? Were they very, so
Yeah.
happy to elaborate more on mine, but feel free to tell me about kind of how it was for you.
Yeah, sure. So, I was raised by a single mother. I still have very good relations with my father as well, but my mother raised my sister and I, and because of that, she had a bit more. She was a bit stricter due to the fact that she just wasn't able to always cope with the stuff my sister and I pulled. So she was a bit harsher, but at the same time, always really fair and honest about it. So what happened was you had a border, you knew the rules, and if you crossed them, you were in trouble. It really was quite simple, and I think that really shaped my relation with how I perceive rules. Right, there's always leeway, but there are red lines, and you do not cross them. And those red lines just make sense. They make a lot of sense about how you perceive it, right? So you can, you know, question everything, but you don't go and bring harm to others. You don't needlessly break the rules because you don't care about them. It's just they're there. You gotta at least respect them. You can always question them though, and you can always try and push the boundaries where you need to, but with respect. Um, Also helped a lot that my parents were punkers in the 80s, just before I was born. My mom had a huge mohawk, really awesome, pink mohawk for a while. Very, very cool. She dropped that. But yeah, that was definitely a thing my parents did. Very, very liberal, progressive, left wing, bit socialist household I was raised in. Very interesting theme. So yeah, that's definitely taken shape in my life.
And what's interesting, one quick question before I kind of jump in, is your
Sure,
sister older or younger?
just a bit younger. Oh right,
Okay.
yeah, because that's also a thing, of course,
Yeah, and like so
for
actually
sure.
what's funny is you talk about your your parents being a lot more like progressive and liberal and stuff. And for me, I can tell you that it took me a very long time to realize that my parents were pretty like passionate for voting for the conservative party in Mexico. And I
Right.
was like, what? I have very conservative parents? And but on the other hand, uh again, this is where the whole liberal versus conservative kind of goes out the window because Mexico also had one party dominating everything, as in like so for 73 years, even though there was a democracy, one
Hmm.
party always had the presidency. So it's like, okay, that's not really a.
Right.
However, so what I mean is that wasn't the party that my parents voted for. So somehow the Conservative Party was not the party that was always in power, which is kind of a weird dynamic. Um, but again, at the end of the day, the realization is that my parents are conservatives and consider themselves conservatives.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we moved to the US, so we migrated, and usually conservatives and migration don't always fit so well. So I'm like, wait, conservative, but you're a migrant who's like, I don't know. It's an
Yeah.
interesting kind of contradiction in that regard.
Well, you see that often, right, with people who migrate to a different country tend to become rather conservative in their position just to have a sense of stability and home. You often see that with migrants. We have a huge amount of Dutch colonists, Dutch migrants who went to Canada and they still live like in the early 50s actually, and they still live like the 50s.
Mhm.
They still like they still have the clogs on the wall, which is amazing, and they have very different cultures because their culture didn't evolve the way Dutch culture did in the last 70 years.
Yeah, and here, sorry, I'm turning on the light. Um, I think that's also one thing that makes it a bit of an interesting case, also where, on the one hand, yes, you have if people migrate and then they might become more conservative to have. I mean, yeah, 100%. I mean, I think for me, kind of going back to just the topic of like parents,
Yeah.
um, it's interesting that my parents were also. I mean, because of the way the culture is in Mexico, almost everybody is Roman Catholic, so it's
Right.
very religious, very kind of like you um, have to have your first communion and then your confirmation and then all this like with marriage and stuff. And so at the end of the day, it's also funny because and I'm a bit aware of the impact that my parents had and how I kind of I want to say corrected it, but how I changed myself by becoming aware of it because. Um, if it was up to my parents, I would have lived in their house until I was 30, even if I was dating somebody, and you don't move out until you get married. That's just
Right.
Mexican culture.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I moved to the US when I was 12. And I mean, in the US, you joke that like when you become 18, um, people just kick you out. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, like, okay, well, you're 18, so better go make something
Yeah.
out of yourself. It's
Bye.
like, what? And so I was in neither camp there.
Mm.
Um, but again, I mean, my parents expected us to be very conservative in that way, very kind of like religious, very all these things that they were in a way.
Yeah.
Uh, they didn't impose it on us, and I think that's where we go back to the topic of parents teaching politics. That like, my dad would oftentimes even say like, like I'm your dad, so you have to do as I say, and I was like, really? And eventually it was like, no, not really. So it's interesting because even the authority figure in theory in my family was very like,
Yeah.
okay, but I'm open to suggestions. And yeah, it's an interesting kind of thing, you know what I mean?
So they find themselves conservative, but they are open to other stuff, which is somewhat progressive, of course. If you really want to make it like that.
Yeah, and that's what again, okay, yeah, it just depends on so many people's like family situation and their like the cultures and everything. But at the end of the day, even I mean, how does somebody define themselves as? So let me put it just in a very, yeah, more political scenario, where somebody's like, okay, well, we're very like religious parents, very conservative. You have to da 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 da. And then if they have like a kid who is very what you could say gay, trans, all these things, how do the parents deal with it? Do they kind
Right.
of disown the kids? Do they go into their own trauma because it's my fault as I failed as a parent? How do they deal with the situation? And I think
Yeah.
again, this is why I really feel like your parents and your relationship with your parents and their relationship with each other can affect so much more about how you perceive kind of the world and what your politics is because
Right.
you can disagree with somebody and still accept or embrace them, and there's a
Yeah.
big line between oh yeah, except that I disagree with you, or it's like, you know what, we might not agree, but like that's totally fine. And yeah, I mean, you can also have people who are very liberal, and then as soon as they disagree with somebody, they're like, oh yeah, I want nothing to do with them. And it's like, well, how can you be progressive and liberal if you can't possibly tolerate somebody who disagrees with you? Because that almost sounds you're conservative about your liberal views. So anyway, I'm throwing
Yeah.
these terms because at the end of the day, you don't even have to talk about conservative versus liberal if you just talk about the politics, which I would just say the dynamics between kind of
Right.
people in society.
So we have a question here, or maybe a statement from Scrambled Egg Chef, and they say it's interesting. My hypothesis would be that migrating would make you more progressive, since you get to know other cultures more closely, and are able to look at things from different sides. So I think we can tie that into the question: did that maybe make your parents more open to questioning from your part, or these things, because they did travel and they did have to acknowledge a whole new reality.
Yeah, but I would say it's not necessarily that they migrated. I mean, so not directly, and it's not necessarily that. Um, so yes, there's a fair point being made about like migrating might make you more progressive, more open, more liberal, this and that. On the other hand, you can always turn it backwards in the sense that people that are, for example, second generation Mexicans, or here in Germany, I'm living in Hamburg, by the way, second generation Turkish people don't know if they are German or Turkish or what. And then
Yeah.
sometimes they're the ones who become almost ultra nationalists. I mean, like you have people,
Mm,
I know people criticize, like saying, like, why would any Hispanic vote for Trump? And I'm like, guarantee over 50% of them are second generation Mexicans
yeah.
because you grow up your whole life in this culture, but people see you as an outsider. You're like, okay, well, I'm not an outsider, but I'm also not an insider. Who am I? And so sometimes to choose your identity there, you become, you could say, ultra conservative. And some people who become very nationalists is because they're trying to protect the one thing that they want to identify with, which is the country where they were raised, or maybe their country of migration, or
Right.
at the end of the day, even migration can make you very conservative if it's just focused on preserving kind of your
Right.
some identity.
So this really reminds me about a Dutch context thing, where in the 60s, the Dutch, along with a lot of other European countries, asked a lot of migrants from Turkey and Morocco to come to our country and work, with the idea of it being a temporary thing, migrant workers, and then they would go back. Due to tons of political things that we needn't get into right now, they stayed, right? Perfect sense. And Dutch politics did not count on that, which really led to no effort being done to integrate this whole new stream of people into society, which in turn led to a second generation of these migrants also being in this country without really having any tangible relation with the actual country, right? A lot of their parents didn't even speak Dutch. They never need to. They were actually actively swayed against learning Dutch for the longest of time, which in turn caused a lot of controversy, because now these people were here to stay, and um, they had no relationship with the rest of the country, and which caused a lot of friction, unfortunately. And that is something up until this day, the Netherlands at least, and I believe a lot of other countries, need to deal with the reality and have done very poorly, unfortunately. Luckily, we now have the third generation, which kind of integrates a lot better, which is a very interesting thing. And you see this trend all over. You have very clear trends going on. It's almost like a law in social science, which doesn't happen, of course, as a lot of people know. but it's a very interesting demographic change, and they changed Dutch culture along with them for the better, because it's a really in the Netherlands, hip hop and rap from these groups are extremely popular, and they really shape a lot of Dutch society, and they have done so for, well, at least 25 years now, and in a really cool way. So, yeah.
Um, and actually, it's funny that you mentioned because when was this? Do you know around when it was this thing with in the
The,
Netherlands?
the migrants in the 60s.
60s. Because what's funny is that so what's similar is so I think I remember something about also the Turkish people coming to Germany and why there's also such a big kind of Turkish uh descendants here. But I can tell you that in Mexico, so well in Mexico, Mexicans in the US, they also had, so it was in the 90s that I think the program was in the 80s and it was for certain types of agriculture and like
Right.
hand like labor type of thing. And basically people could come in for the summer and work and then go back to Mexico, this and that. So it was a policy of like very cheap labor for the US, and they benefited a lot from it. But then of course when people spend enough time in the US, suddenly they started like meeting people, making friends, making families, da da da. And it was in 92, I think it was. There's like a U.S. Migration Act, which was essentially this is something that very conservative Republicans in the U.S. are very against now, but it was the whole amnesty thing, whereas basically
Right.
everybody now gets basically just to become a citizen like this because they
Right.
realize, oops, like we basically welcome so many people to create their lives here. Now we can't really just let them go, so everybody becomes American. Now, of course, this free pass is something that like very few people in the U.S aware that happen
Of course,
or
yeah.
are open to that happen. But it's similar, in a sense, like it's like you're saying, like you have this group of people who would come in and suddenly like they start having lives and families and they start having kids. And when you
Mm.
mention also like another generation, I mean, I think you might have heard the term of third culture kids. Um, so this is
Ooh,
also a term
I
that's
can't say I have.
okay. So third culture kids is it can apply different ways. It's either when you're mm, so essentially the third culture is the one that gets created when
Mm-hmm.
you can't choose between two, and it can happen many different ways, well, two or more. So sometimes it's used for kids of diplomats because when your dad or mom is a diplomat and you move here but then you move here but then you move here and your best childhood friends are here but then your adulthood friends are here, da da da. Essentially it's like, well, you can't say you're from anywhere because all your friends are kind of like closest friends are spread out in so many places and you live in many places.
Right.
So the whole question of like where are you from for a third culture kid is like and this is also applies for Mexicans or Turks or whoever, like, hey, you have, for example, a mom who's this and a dad who is this, and
Right.
you grew up in either one of the countries. I mean, so I think one popular or one example from a famous person would be Trevor Noah.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor Noah's biography was called Born a Crime because he talks about having a Swiss dad who was dating his South African mom during
Right.
apartheid. And
Oof.
he's like, he was basically taught to not be, basically like his parents couldn't date, but they were dating. But then he's like, hey, well, he kind of Swiss because of his dad, but he can't say, I mean, it's, again, the third culture is the one that's neither this one nor that one, so kind of both, but also
Ah,
neither. Like so that's what's interesting about like
there's
this,
a
and it's
there's a very interesting. It's really interesting that you talk about that, because I suddenly remember something from my German literature classes, and it's called Tonio Kröger. Um, for all the German viewers here, I'm sure you know that. I had to read the book in German, which was very difficult for me at the age of 15. But hey, thankfully I did. And it's about a child from a German, a southern German mother and a northern German father, and the German the south of Germany was more exotic, more Mediterranean. It was described as such, and the north was more businesslike and cold. And the child was raised exactly like this, but never really fit in his youth. Was bullied and went into a huge identity crisis before he eventually ended up having a completely new type of personality where he could get the advantage of both the north and the south when they were convenient, but that took a long time to shape. And that's it's called Tonio Kröger.
Okay.
It's
You're gonna have to do this one separately because that's for me that's super interesting as well. I mean, like, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
in a sense, what's also funny about it is that
it's from
when you
1903.
well, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you mentioned about like kind of rules of social sciences or like kind of like it's kind of it just happens, cyclical,
Yeah.
over generations and despite locations. Yeah, I mean, just precisely what you mentioned about having um being able to be on both sides. So I had this funny joke with a friend where we have the same birthday, which was also very cool. So we both have like
Right.
July 12, and it's like, hey, like cool, same birthday, different years, but same birthday. And so he was born in Germany, but he also grew up in the US. And so when he speaks English, he sounds
Right.
very American, just like I do. When he speaks German, he doesn't have an accent. So we both have, both accents, which is also
Right.
one way you can tell people have spent really enough time in the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so going back to your comment about kind of like having both and like using both to your advantage or playing both sides type of thing, we at one point joked about there was one night we were just having some beers and I don't remember
Right.
why we were going around the city having a good time and we somehow decided to speak in accents, but like so speak for example English with a Mexican accent. So
Right.
be talking like this, and he's like, why does he sound like this? Or flip it and speak, for example, Spanish with an American accent is like, "Hola, me llamo Eduardo," and it was funny because he could sound very American or very, Mexican in my case, or he could sound very German or American, but we
Right.
could also flip it and to be like, oh, like I'm actually, he did. I'm not gonna try to do it, but a German speaking English, where it's just
Right.
there's
It's
jokes about it too.
That's beautiful. I love to do the same because it sounds really weird. It's called Stone Colon English, and it is very weird to sound like this. But every person living in the Netherlands knows how this goes because our prime minister talks like this too, and it's just very enunciated.
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny. I'll kind of continue that story and go back to kind of the original
Sure
topic
thing.
because there was so there's this joke with Mexicans in on YouTube. If you just look up, so the previous president was Peña Nieto, and if you Google like Peña Nieto speaking English or hablando English, whatever language you choose, it's essentially him English. Um, it's funny because his English was so bad that there's a video of him where because Spanish is a very phonetic language, like if I
Right.
write like letters, you know how the letters sound. So
Right.
the video of him talking in English is where they're like what probably happened was they wrote the Spanish sounds
Mm-hmm.
so and so instead of sounding like this, they wrote instead of sounding like this, and it's like and so they're like just make the sounds, and people will think you speak English. And so anyway, I mentioned that story, the political scenario, because now going back to third culture kids, parenting, and this and that.
Yes.
I'm almost kind of ashamed to admit this, but with my dad, when we first moved to the US, my brother and I had learned English very well, but we were very shy about our accent. So we were kind of like, let's first listen to people before we talk.
Right.
And we had this story where one of our first trips after we moved to the US, we were in a hotel and we needed to get more towels because it was four of us, in like a two-bedroom, so then essentially we're like, okay, well, we need more towels. And my brother and I are like, I'm not calling reception,
Right.
you're the parents, you do it. My mom was like, you're the boss, right, Dad? So he calls and he's like, yes, can I get two more towels? And the person was like, what? I was
Oh
like,
no.
two more towels. And and so the part that's embarrassing now to admit is it's like we gave my dad a lot of shit about it. We're like, two more towels. To his credit, he had the balls to actually call
For
and
sure.
like
He actually did it.
yeah. And so now my brother and I might sound very like, American because we adapted to the language, to the accent. But on the
Right.
other hand, he was the one who was like, all right, like I have to do the talking, I have to like
Yeah.
speak, I speak good English, and it's like, shit, like, so anyway, it's embarrassing to now admit that
Well,
we were asshole kids to make fun of him for that, but
I mean that's also a bit of part of being a father, right? I think he knew that if he didn't do that, then he would set a very bad example. You would probably it will take you a lot more time to actually start speaking English rather than yeah being a bit more quiet about that.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's also something where like, again, going back to something that okay, like all of us were shy about like talking in a foreign language to other people, but he was like, okay, well, we're here to do this, so if
Right.
somebody has to kind of take the initial step to do it, I'm doing it. And so anyway, so I mean,
Yeah. But
well, in
that's
a sense,
cool.
um, and so again, I guess I mean we're going a bit more into just already like an accent and all that, but kind of going back to originally, like let's say like how my parents were about everything. One key example that I say to people is so for example, again, my parents being very kind of conservative, very kind of mellow, relaxed people.
Yeah.
My dad was also very, um, since I was a kid, and he was like, no, like no drinking, and like drinking is bad, this and
Right.
that. And he has his beliefs, and he's somebody who's very much like, I mean, to this day, he's like, like I think he told me like he'd been drunk 5 times in his life. He's like, I can count all of them. The funny story was also the first time he was properly drunk was with my grandfather on my mom's side. So essentially my mom's dad because he's like, hey, have some beers, man. And he's like, oh well, this is like my girlfriend's dad. I can't say no. But then of course, he's like, I don't do this, but I can't say no because I have to make the decision. So there's a whole story about him just getting super tipsy, more than tipsy,
Right.
and I mean, in a sense, it wasn't by choice, but it was. You can argue whatever. I'm
Right.
making and then bringing up the story because as much as my dad is like, no, like we don't drink. My brother and I grew up in the States. We went to university in the States, and I mean,
There you have it.
I went to Kansas State University. So when people talk about like college parties, I'm like, yeah, I was in a like college town. Like if there's no university, there's no town. Therefore, it's like there's a lot of people partying, this and that. And when my dad, found out that like I drank, my brother drank and stuff, of course he wasn't super approving of it, but he
Hmm.
also wasn't like not my son anymore, or he wasn't like, oh,
Right.
you are wrong as a human being. I mean, in so many ways, again, this influences. Okay, there are rules, but why are they there? There is right and wrong, but why is this right or wrong? Like
Right.
he may have these beliefs, but he's still gonna let us reach our conclusions. And of course, I mean, as I'm 31 now, I can tell you like, yeah, drinking is bad for these reasons. Overdoing it in this way is bad. I know why he doesn't approve of it, but I'm like, well, I approach it this way, and therefore, for me, it's
Right.
not about not doing it or you know what I mean? Like,
So he gave you the room to make your own decisions and make your own mistakes, even though he did not approve of them. And that's
and
that. Yeah. So sorry.
no, no, no. I mean, it's not.
So, but how would that translate into our story, into our narrative, right? We are talking about how that shaped your political perspectives.
So I would ask you, this is where I think we can relate, because now I'm turning the question on you in a tricky way.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, when people talk about like, oh, and me growing up in the States, they're like, Colorado legalized weed, and it's like, what? Then Washington is like, what? And I remember a Dutch friend of mine showed me this video of this politician who was against the legalization. He was like, you know, um, it's like I can't believe we're doing this because like we're gonna be like the Netherlands. It's pure anarchy up there. And a Dutch friend showed me this video. It's pure anarchy up there, and they cut to a video of people in the Netherlands, and it's like, hey, people super friendly, super like, hey, what's up? Like it's like, that seems like a very chill place. So now bringing the connection, I mean, whether it's your parents letting you smoke weed or drink alcohol, or whether it's
Right.
your government having prohibition, which let's see how that turned out,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or not letting you smoke weed or not, it's not a matter of your dad or patriarchal government telling you you can or can't do this. It's more like, okay, if you are allowed to do this or not, do you learn the lessons? Do you use it
Right.
properly? And so now I'm turning the question to you, Unisys, because I can tell you that in my story with drinking or not, my dad might be like, this is not allowed, but you can draw your lessons from it because it's also not criminalized, right?
Right.
In your perspective, I'm like, okay, like you grew up in a country where I'm guessing your whole life you've been allowed to buy, smoke weed or whatever, but how, you know, I don't know how your parents were about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and
Yeah.
whether you are or not allowed to do something affects whether you maybe try to do it later on as a rebel. So I'm curious, making that
Sure.
connection
Yeah,
for me.
please. All good. So before I do that, let's address some things in the chat. Also, sorry, Paladin, Zacharias, and Kim. Thank you for the follow. Really amazing. I hope you're having a good time. And this is the Volt Twitter. Wow. This is the Volt Twitch account, and we are talking about the influence of your family to your political perspectives, and to use that as a little bridge to Shamrock, who is a bit late. I'm sorry that you're late. I hope you're happy that you're here. We have been talking about how that happens. So Ed came from Mexico. His parents are, well, consider themselves conservative, but at the same time did give him the opportunity to draw his own lessons. Also, him being raised in the US, then having moved to Europe, gave him a completely different perspective on life than, well, his parents had. But at the same time, he was also shaped by his parents, right? And that's really what we're talking about. Me, at the same time, I come from I was raised in a single by my mom. Always had contact with my father. But my mom, having to raise my little sister and me, was kind of strict. Because she kind of had to. Otherwise, two rampaging children would, well, drown her. But at the same time, she gave us a lot of space, right? She had drawn some red lines. You knew when you crossed the line that you've gone too far, and it was really up to you to not go there. And that really shaped my way of life. Also, my parents were punkers, and my mom had a huge mohawk. I'd like to repeat that because I find that really cool. So they are very progressive, had a tad of that classic socialist background, and that very much shaped my youth. And I'm really sure up until now the same thing. So in a nutshell, that's what we're talking about. Also with the migration story in the Netherlands. So we are talking how that goes on in how migrants are shaped when they move to a different country, with the Dutch, Turkish, and Moroccan migrants being, having a weird relationship or a complex relationship with Dutch society and Dutch government, and it's a difficult one, but also one that has definitely enriched our country at least. So that is something that Jack Eki Temu affirms. The migration story in the Netherlands sounds just like in Germany and Austria, and it would handle like exactly the same way. So that is, yeah, I think it's a very common thing in Europe, at least Northwestern Europe. I'm pretty sure the same has also been happening to an extent in the UK, although they also had a very different colonialist past with India, um, and those people coming to the UK. Not really sure about the history of Scandinavia. I'm sorry for my lack of knowledge there. But yeah, for sure. Also, give me 1 second. I'm going to put my headphone in the charger while I keep talking. Voila. There we are. And then the next question is from Ed. So you asked me, Ed, you asked me what my relation. Can you reiterate the question for a second again? I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it happens when you're given a recap. No, again, I would ask mm, connecting both, and this may be two different stories for you. Your rules in your house, your parents,
Right.
and the
Ah,
social rules about something, because
yeah.
again, if you're not allowed to do something, sometimes you do it. And so if, society says, "Oh, you're not allowed to smoke weed," and it's like, do people
Right.
report on it? Or if your parents say you're not allowed to drink, do you I mean, like that. And I don't know how it is your experience coming from a country that is
Right.
it's Americans, pure anarchy.
I saw that Fox movie. It was beautiful. They were talking about politicians getting killed in no-go zones in Amsterdam. Now, I've been living in Amsterdam for a couple of years. I still have not seen them, but I find it a very cool action story. You know, it's impressive. Um, Thank you, Fox News, for that awesome piece of human interest. But my family was liberal, right? So there are a couple of things going on. People in the Netherlands they have a drinking culture. That has been changing the last few years, but really my generation, we were allowed to start drinking alcohol at the age of 16, which meant that we usually started drinking alcohol at the age of 14, um, when we had parties and went out, and you just start to drink a lot. Uh, and you do that for years and years on end. So, of course, my parents were like, be responsible. My mom had, like, a lot for the longest time said, well, don't drink alcohol. And then it was 16, then you're allowed. At the same time, my parents were punkers, and they have done way more stuff than I have done in my life when it comes to pushing boundaries, which doesn't make for a very believable story when they say, "You're not allowed to drink alcohol, young man." So what happens then is they say that. They also acknowledge from themselves, like, just, you know what you do. Come on. Don't be a little prick, and just make sure that you don't get into a coma and you don't get weird. Which was very agreeable for me because I was 16 and I wanted to explore the world and get wasted. So that was good. Um, and I think that is, for me, it felt like a very healthy way of acknowledgement, because I was not inclined to do things in secret. I was very transparent. My mom laughed at me when I got home way too drunk and had to, relieve myself. She made a picture, and that was very funny. She was like, "Well, this is going up the board," and that made it for a nice theme. And I think that is really a good way to go at it. And I think it really shaped my way of engaging with politics as well. Is you see now in the Netherlands that you have a lot of people rebelling against COVID measures, and I think that really has to do with the fact, in the Netherlands at least, that there has been so much vagueness about this, which, to be the devil's advocate, it's really difficult to make up a clear set of rules and make the red lines and say like do it responsibly, because then you get a lot of people taking responsibility and just doing their own stuff, right? That's it's a difficult thing. But it really did shape my political outlook and made me want to push boundaries. And when I felt uncomfortable about things, um, make it known, right? Don't go eat it up yourself, but go out and explain and say it, and expect the outside world to at least acknowledge it, if that makes sense, right? So there was always this feeling that it was safe for me to express myself, um, because my parents never stomped me into the ground when I did.
And so now, I mean, I think uh, we both grew up in this environment where you are very yeah, allowed to, push boundaries, make mistakes, that sort of
Mm.
thing. And, like where you can learn from those mistakes and you're still okay. Now this is something that I mean, I think you probably know because I mentioned it before that I'm kind of like really eager to talk about. Um, Going back to family histories and like so an example of somebody like Sir former US president just left. So the Trump family has this whole
Right.
if you look at the history of their family, it's wow. I mean, it's fascinatingly toxic. It's something
Yeah.
where, it's competition to make the dad proud, who then provides the, resources and this and that. And so at the end of the day, it's a fight to earn really just your parents saying you did a good job.
Right.
And now when you say pushing boundaries, we're talking about it from our context of like, I experimented with something and I learned, too much or right or wrong this. But when somebody is basically encouraged to say like, no, no, like there's only winners or losers, and either you beat the person or you lost, it creates also this culture, and we're talking
Right.
about family culture, but it creates this personality, this, um, psychological approach to saying like, oh no, like I have to win
Right.
or others have to lose for me to win. I mean, it creates this whole like, so when you say pushing boundaries, let's talk about it like now we can get into like, okay, like is it right to, so we focus on something simpler about like, yeah, drinking too much or this and that, but you talk about like, oh, well, like stealing something or something like this, it's like,
Mm.
well, like you're pushing this boundary, but if you don't get caught, and if you then win over somebody else,
Right.
and at the end of the day, it can really send you down slowly but surely down this wrong path of like, well, you can push boundaries, but you can always pay your way out of them, or
Yeah.
you can always, I mean, in a sense, like, it's fascinating because then this is also your boundaries with other people. So there,
Yeah.
we're talking about boundaries with like taking drinking or smoking or something, but what about your boundaries with other people?
Yeah.
And I think this is something that like when you grow up in a culture where it's like, oh yeah, push your boundaries, and like not only do you have to push your boundaries, you have to conquer them. It's kind of like, whoa, that sounds like a very not right way to approach this. But also when you come from financial resources where you say, yeah, I'm
Mm.
pushing this boundary, but I can always buy my way out of it, or I can always, I'm allowed to push these boundaries because people let me push boundaries because I mean, like, they're, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. With
it's
there were no consequences to your actions.
correct. I mean, well,
Yeah.
there were no, there were consequences, obviously, but there was no lesson. There was no,
No
you know,
lesson.
there was something where like, well,
Right.
yeah, you can always buy your way back to the starting point, and it's like,
Yeah. No. I mean, there are. That's definitely a thing, right? There are lines you do not cross, and you need to acknowledge them. And the moment you don't need to have those lines in your youth, then what is there, right? It's good to experiment, but there are borders you do not cross. There are lines, boundaries,
Yeah, and I mean, no,
or
I know. And
maybe a system even, right? It's just a pattern of behavior that does not work. And I feel that the person we're talking about right now is interesting insofar as he had a really messed up childhood, and from what I gather, he never really he was actually dissuaded from learning how to engage with people like normal people do.
yeah, but I think it's also because you are taught like you are above people because you
Yeah,
have more than them, you earn more than them, even if you're born in different like playing fields. And so at the end of the day, I mean, I we don't have to focus so much on him necessarily. I just mean that it's interesting how a lot of times people who come from a very um this is the irony, very poor family background, very
mm-hmm.
like, lacking family background, end up doing a lot of things that are very um I mean, yeah, sure, very political, very,
Right.
and it's, I don't want to say necessarily just political, but I mean, the way they treat other people, it's kind of like, well, this is kind of like how the world is. It's like, no, it isn't. Like, you come from a family that's very, mm, so I'm kind of swaying a different way in this because after growing up in Kansas, I can tell you like some people who are very conservative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the people that we would say like, oh, they don't know anything about that was like, yeah, because their world is this big. It's like you have mom, dad, and like your job is to like,
The
you
nuclear
know,
family.
yeah, take the family business and make it work. And then, I mean, this is like your core. And at
Right.
the end of the day, it's understandable because like, why should they have to always think about like what's happening in the Netherlands? But it's like, yeah, yeah, I'm not in the Netherlands. I don't speak that. I don't know any of this.
Mm-hmm.
And in their defense, you can say like, yeah, I mean, they're focused on the things that matter to them, to their small world. And when
Yeah.
that is threatened, then they are very defensive about it, but they don't really see how the dots connect because their world is this big. Usually, not usually, that can work. I mean, there's other places, very rural places. I mean, also, for example, I was talking with a friend about like in Bavaria,
Mm-hmm.
some places in Germany and Bavaria never leave the small town in Bavaria because why would you? I mean, you have everything, you have
Yeah.
nature, family, everything. But they don't then they feel like they're threatened when somebody who's from a much poorer, much you know, more disadvantaged place comes in because they're like, whoa, 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 like stay in your place stuff. And it's like, well, you know what I mean? Like, and this is why again, this is not even going into the whole topic of like different races and languages. And it's like,
Right.
if you're not in a very wealthy, multicultural, multilingual place in rich Bavaria, California, wherever, you're gonna see the world as when somebody comes out as an outsider as a threat, you're suddenly like, oh.
Yeah.
And again, I brought up the Trump thing also because I read just yesterday this thing about like how his family, his parents, were not approving of one of his brother's girlfriends, like because the family was Italian, and it's like, oh, they're the Italians, they're the foreigners, and it's like,
Right.
an Italian in New York, and you consider that as an outsider, like this is not even race or language into pick. It's just
Mm-hmm.
nobody spoke English. They were
Yeah.
just from Italian descent.
Right.
Anyway,
So there is a lot of stuff to unpack here because I feel that the nuclear household is a very big theme here, which also political apathy, which is also a very big thing. It's very prevalent right now in a lot of Western countries. There's a lot of people saying that this is because of affluence and people don't need to care about politics anymore. This is a very common sociological theme that is being discussed, right? Affluent people don't have not having an actual material incentive, but also no youth impetus anymore to become politically engaged, which is it's a difficult topic because it's also not really true, right? There are exceptions for every rule. Let's start with that. But also, it's transformative, right? Because people are often still political. They just don't want to engage with conventional politics. Um, People from the traditional nuclear household have a certain have a very structured mindset, uh, these kind of things. So what's your take on that?
Um, yeah, interesting question because
Also, before we continue with this, um, let's say that we are going to start our game in 10 minutes. Yeah.
good. Um, so yeah, going back to your question about a nuclear household, and I mean, I take it as the core of the question, and I have a good friend of mine who was also, so he's born and raised in New York to Korean parents who are very much like still together. They have their nuclear family, let's say, what we
Right.
call mom, dad, kids, whether it's many kids or one kid. And we've had this conversation before, and he was also somebody who sent me this article that, I mean, you can Google it. I remember the title of it is Why the Nuclear Family Was a Mistake. And it's because he talks about especially in some places like conservative US, they
Mm-hmm.
push the nuclear family as the way to be and the thing that we all need to strive for. And me coming from that sort of environment and other friends of mine coming from that sort of environment,
Yeah.
of course, it's easy to agree. It's like, yeah, that is the way to be. You have mom, dad, and like kids, and that.
Right.
Now, I immediately tell you, like in today's day and age, it's like, well, why can't it be two moms? Why can't it be two dads? Why can't it be? And so it's like, okay, yes. And this is where we then go into like, what is the nucleus? And is a nuclear family necessarily mom, dad, kids? Is it, I mean, I could almost say by changing the definition, you had a nuclear family, even though you said it was
Right.
you were raised by your mom, your sister, and yourself. And it's like, well, somebody might say, but that's not a nuclear family. It's like, what's the nucleus of the family? And I think the
Right.
key is nucleus, as in like, this is why I think I would never agree that a nuclear family is a mistake
Mm-hmm.
because you can define something as a nuclear family, even if it's not what people consider as like, well, a
Right.
normal or a traditional family. I mean, like this is
Right.
something that's um, as long as there's balance, and I think you can find balance between like a single mom with one kid, a single mom with three kids, a single dad, which is more rare, with one or two kids or something,
Mm-hmm.
or however it is, there just has to be a balance between, and yeah, you get political here, liberalism and conservatism, between being open and a bit kind of like not wild. I mean, you know what I mean? It's kind of like keeping things in balance. And this is
Imbalance.
where
Yeah.
that's what I would consider a nuclear family is something balanced, where in the same way that a cell has a nucleus, the protons, neutrons, electrons, it's balanced. If it's not, it breaks down, and
Right. A stable.
getting
So a nuclear household you would consider a stable household, maybe. Would that be
almost. So, and this is where, because I'm very picky on my English.
harmonious household?
But I wouldn't say stable, but balanced. I mean,
Balanced.
stable means that it doesn't move, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, well, sometimes there's a quote that I think is funny that's called everything in moderation, including moderation. And it's like,
Right.
so like, keep everything, moderated, but sometimes not too moderated, it's that. And so I think not just stable, but like balance. It's like if you go too
Mm.
far right, you have to go too far left. If you don't move well, I guess, but you kind of want to balance like every
Right.
2 step forwards, 2 step back, 2 steps right, 2 steps left, 2 step left,
Oh, that's a
just
song. That's a song. I know that song.
yeah, I know. Shh, dropping references. Um,
Take it back down, y'all. But yeah, sorry. Please continue.
Oh, also, my definition of a nuclear
Right.
family would just be a balanced family, and you can have a balanced family between, two mothers and a kid. I mean, like
Right.
you can whatever political beliefs you have, there can be a nucleus as long as it's balanced. And like if kids are too rebellious and parents are too strict,
Hmm.
balances, but not always in a good way. So there has to be a bit more. There has to be a core that's,
Right.
again, we go back to if parents are too strict and kids rebel too much, they go their own ways. That's not balanced. That's not nuclear. There
Right.
has to be kind of like a meeting in the middle type of thing.
I gotcha. And with that, I think that we are going to actually start the game a bit earlier than within 10 minutes. I need 2 minutes, and then we are going to start up the game.
Sounds good.
So, how about I just leave us hanging here for a bit? Maybe you can do a monologue for 2 minutes, and we'll be right there.
Yeah, some monologues. I'll actually, because I'm getting a hang of how this works, I can try to check Twitch real quick and see if I can hop in and see any comments about this. Oh shit. I started it too soon. Okay, well, now my monologue is only Age of Empires playing. That's not good. But I'm getting on Twitch to see how this works. Ah, man. Anyway, I think I am tagged on the nope. Yeah, I think I am tagged on the different Twitch and the different social media channels. So I'm happy to keep chatting about this one-on-one. I'm also very happy to do with people. So yeah, I find these topics very entertaining, very fascinating. Yeah, I'm not good at monologues at all. I can go on a rant during a conversation, but
Hi there. I'm sorry.
not my good at monologue. So
There we are.
okay, I'm on Twitch.
Perfect.
So-
So, apologies for that, but I am back again. What did I miss? I think a huge adventure just happened, right? Like goblins and unicorns and spaceships. Are you there, Ed? Hello, Ed. Are you still there? Ed?
I'm also curious for anybody who wants to
Ed,
leave your huge.
are you still here?
I'm sorry.
There you are. I'm like, so
Oh no.
Here we are.
on Twitch.
Perfect. So, apologies for that, but I am back again. Ed,
What
can you, I think, can you close the Twitch? Goblins and unicorns and spaceships. Are you there?
I'm here. You hear me?
Yeah,
You see
yeah,
me?
yeah. I can. Still there?
Yes.
Oh goodness. Ah, perfect. Okay, so I think you closed the Twitch. That's good. Phew.
Yeah. Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
I'm like, how do I check any sort of comments on anything if I'm like, I'm not good at monologues. Trust me, man. I can go on rants during speech, but monologues
I'm
are-
sorry for leaving you hanging there.
it's all good, man. Okay, I've opened Age of Empires, so now you tell me.
It is time. Okay, people, I have to say, this is a bit of a secret here. It's not really a secret. I think it's pretty well known. I love Age of Empires. I'm a huge fan. It makes me so happy. I played this game to death. I am very passionate about it. I am especially very passionate about playing the Persians because they have war elephants, and war elephants are like brutal little tanks that can pulverize everything. They're not really meta though, so there is a thing with that. Oh,
Yeah, sorry, that's me. I'm trying to figure out how to turn off the music on there. This is the worst. Okay, every time I open the window, I have to. I'm gonna mute myself for a minute while you talk. Yeah?
all good, all good. So you have in the menu, you have an options thing. It's an anvil, and I am actually going to switch into our gaming stream. So we have in-game. Give me a second. Where are we? In-game duo. Amazing. There we go. So with that, I am going to now put this on full screen. Perfect. And maybe, ooh, I hope I can change it. No, this is good. This is good. And we also have one other player in the background. We have Draco. Hello, Draco. Are you there?
Hello there.
Yes, we do. I am going to host a multiplayer game. If there are people in the chat who would like to join, we have 5 more spots. And I am going to host a private game because I do not want creepy outsiders who are probably way too good at this game to join my little niche. Let's go, Age of Empires. Yes, people, it is time. We have an invite for Draco and we have an invite for Ekawaka 3. There we go. Yes, you should have gotten an invite via your Steam. And if you click on that invite in your Steam chat, then you should be able to enter. No, I'm afraid not IHOP. Definitive Edition cannot play with HD, so sorry about that. Also, Draco, I am player 1, but I'll play player 2 then. Come on. Oh, yes, this is so exciting. This is so exciting. Oh.
I never did Age of Empires multiplayer.
Okay, then I will not pulverize the both of you. I will, however, play the Persians. The Persians, I will show this to the audience, have a very cool civilization tree. So the people that haven't played Age of Empires yet, you have a civ tree, and here you have what they can do, right? So they have a bit more wood, a bit more food. They have a unique unit, and it's a war elephant. Yes, huge ass war elephants with tusks that can trample castles and put them to fire. Which, how do you do that with tusks? No one knows, but Age of Empires 2 figured it out. It's amazing. How's it going, Ed?
I am in the game, I think.
Did you find my invite on Steam?
Clicked on the invite and it says you accepted the invitation. So I am not sure what the situation is.
Okay.
Maybe we have to invite you again.
I will invite you again.
Yeah,
So
go for it.
I did send you another invite. There we go. AI. And did you see the invite?
Da, 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 da. No.
No.
If you're in the
Okay,
game
now-
already, you can press Shift plus Tab to open the Steam overlay.
Shift.
You should have gotten a new message. If that's not the case, what you can also do is Shift plus Tab, right click on my name,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can say join game. Hopefully.
Hold on, I have your name.
It's Gendarf. Gendarf.
Yeah.
Gendarf the
Uh,
Great.
I clicked on the games, I believe. Mm, I have this very slight worry that. Remember the part about the edition of the game?
Did you install HD or Definitive Edition?
I sent you the link, and I think this is the definitive edition.
Oh no! Alright then, there is a difference there. Oh.
Yeah, I tried to confirm the link, and you were like, "Yes, that one."
Did you? No, did I do a silly then? Well, this makes me really sad. All right. Well,
Yeah, it's called Age of Empires to 2013, right?
yeah,
Yes.
that's the one.
Yeah, see, now it opened a different link from what I have.
Oh no. Well, there is not a worry because I have both, but I'm afraid Draco hasn't, so that is a bit sad.
That's true, but as an alternative, there is another Volta who has.
I hope yes, that's true. Alright, so how about we switch to Definitive Edition then? And then I hope if you want to, you can join. If that's something you desire so. Okay, so then let's install or open, because I already have it installed, this game. Yeah, so I hope what's your handle? What's your Steam handle? Also, it is starting up. Okay. Ooh. So, what do you think, Ed? Do all the great world leaders that are featured within Age of Empires 2 have mommy and daddy issues? Is there a real Freudian thing going on here?
Good question. I wouldn't know because, if we're talking about Age of Empires, they probably grew up in a family that was very much pushing the idea of empires and a son inheriting the empire to his son and that sort of thing. So probably there was not necessarily a daddy issue, but a need to make the dad proud in some weird way.
Right, or kill, maybe. Like, usurpation is also a thing, of course. Okay, how can I switch? We have multiplayer. What is happening here? The whole thing is different. Oh no. Okay, there we go. There we are. So, options, interface, because I need to switch my screen because apparently it doesn't want to go to my right screen. So let's move that up. And I am now going to switch to in-game. There we go. Oh. It did not want to do that. Yes, now it did. Okay, here we are. I hope is someone I can add as a friend. Amazing. Okay, there we are. Now, let's do some hosting. And maybe I hope you can join our Twitch chat. I hear a beep. Is this someone that has joined our Twitch chat? That would be amazing.
Yeah. Hi, good evening.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. I had a long day, but I'm excited to play some Age of Empires with you guys.
Yes, I am too. Alright, so I am going to host another game. I am setting this one to private. Do 4 players. No, 6, because it's 3-on-3. And I will not set a password. Create lobby. So now I can invite you to play a bit of Age of Empires. But I hope, are you a passionate Age of Empires gamer? Are you good? Are you elite?
Let's put it that way. I used to play Age of Empires 2, the original edition, back 10 year ago. I then played quite a lot of Age of Mythology afterwards too, but I only got like the definitive edition like a month ago, thanks to another Volta.
Cool, that's really cool stuff. All right, so we have here Ekawaka 3, and we have. Ooh, I can't find them. Where are you? Steam invites.
You can't find me.
There we are. Ihope is here. You should have gotten an invite too. Both of you should have an invite now.
Waiting because.
Hope is there. And did you get it too, Ed?
Not yet, but okay, wait. It says now joining lobby because I said I was joining a game with you.
Perfect. Yeah, you're in. Amazing. All right,
Nice.
so let's do some. Ooh, now these are the big questions. What kind of map will we take? I think we're just going to do standard Arabia because that is always a good one. And we put 2 AIs in there and make them not that difficult because come on. Map style, difficulty, AI.
Hey, well, I think it's gonna take a really quick, like, couple-minute break.
Of course, no worries. We're going to get started in a bit anyway. So, Ed, we're also going to try, this is of course a bit of an experiment, to play the game and keep talking here. Also, chat, if you're here, let me know if you have questions to Ed, if you have any other questions. For example, why is Mike so red? Well, Mike saw the sun for the first time and he's very happy about that. He is so happy that he's a bit toasty because how often does a Dutch guy in quarantine see the sun? Alright.
I'll be back.
Yeah. AI difficulty is standard. Are you also ready, Ed? Hello, hello? Oh no, I think Ed has...
No, I said I'm taking a break.
Oh,
like-
you're taking a bit of a break. My bad, my bad.
It's just super quick. Be back.
All good. Alright, so let's see. Let's see, chat, what are we talking about today? So we are talking about the influence of family on your political proclivities. So one thing that really comes to my mind, and we're going to discuss this later on, is the fact that I have a lot of friends who are just not that politically engaged. They do not care about it. They just want to make sure that they and theirs are well settled. They have managed to do well for themselves, but they have no inclination to join anything political or be politically outspoken unless it actually affects them. This is actually a huge source of contention for me because I struggle with that due to my internal feelings. I want to be out there, I want to be vocal about injustices, and they just don't have that. And we need to respect that of to each other, we do. But at the same time, it's something I struggle with. So that is interesting how that is done, because I do feel that this is something that people are brought up with a lot of people just being very stable, having their parents not being politically engaged either, and just making sure that their livelihood is well enough, which is, well, given that we are Volt and we are talking about politics, it's not something that a lot of you have either, I can imagine. So with that, I really wonder how that happened, because it is a huge... I don't think you can or should blame anyone. You shouldn't pick a fight on that. It just doesn't make sense. But at the same time, it is a societal problem of political disengagement by a lot of younger people. They are more difficult to reach out to politically, and they just do not care, which leads to a lot of underrepresentation, a lot of voices not being heard. There's a lot of political cynicism in there. I think maybe there's also a bit of pessimism. You can't change anything. This is just the way the world is. It's that sense of realism, they'd like to say, pragmatism, about not being able to make a change. And I wonder whether that is something that is instilled onto them, that they just hear, now that's just the way the world is, which goes against my millennial vibes, right? It's that's really something that a millennial should have difficulties with, because we, as a generation, we're often told that we can be whatever we want and we can make the change in the world we want, which is a funny thing. All good. Hello, Ed. Your cam is still very much frozen, so let's see how that is going. Oh.
I can restart. You can hear me, right?
I do hear you. Yeah, that's great at least. At the same time, your face is stuck in a flattering way, so don't worry about it. You know, if that's if it's really too bad, we can screen grab this and it won't look that bad on you. It would be better if we can see your pretty face smile a lot, you know, that'd be awesome too. But good like this too, if you really need to. So Hope is also coming back soon, and we are almost ready to go as well. And I think, yes, there we are. I will also minimize this, and
I am back already, if that was the question.
Oh, amazing. You are back again. Okay. Well, let's do a little Slim Shady there. Guess who's back? We are good to go, though. Awesome, people. Are you all ready? Do you want to have a civilization there? Because I do. I am going for... Ooh, they have a lot of others as well. But I think I want to go for the... I already said I was going for the Persians, right? Well, that's how I do that. And a Black Forest, I think. Random map, standard. Arabia or Black Forest?
Arabia.
Arabia? Yeah? Alright, let's do that. Then, let's get to it. Let's get down to business. Hope and Ed, can you click on I'm ready, please? So then we can start talking again. Alright, we're good to go. 5 seconds for 3, 2, 1, blast off. So I was talking a bit about political cynicism and the role of your parents on that, because I do feel that it is a huge societal problem that we have to deal with, that a lot of younger people from my generation are less politically active and also cynical about it. And I wonder how that happened, because our generation is... We are millennials, we come from the same year, right, Ed? And we are really... Oh no, don't worry. We are really... oh no. Crap, I forgot my build order. I will also put down the volume just a bit. Our generation really heard that we can change everything. We can change the world, we can do whatever we want. Oh no, I am not doing well. So let's get those little goatees. Oh, goodness gracious. How's it going, people? Are we ready to do some Age of Empires and knock some civilizations out?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. But Ed, what do you think? Is that political cynicism unfounded?
I need you to repeat the kind of focus of the question because we've been all over the place here. So, the political cynicism about what?
So I think that a lot of
سلام آری
I think a lot of our generation are not that politically active anymore. With a lot of them actually being very cynical about politics, whereas at the same time our generation was raised with the idea that we could change the world, right? That's a common
آماده
trope.
صحیح چوب برد
So what happened? Is this something that, yeah, parents had a say in? Hope, don't you dare.
Yeah, no. Hold on. I think I need to mute my guy because my computer's speaking to me in German about like, hey, you need to like, you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, hold on. No, I mean, I think it's not so much about like changing the world. I think it's also our generation. There's different people who have different perspectives in terms of what is needed. Like,
Mhm.
به جمع کن
we need to
آماده
change the world or understand it first.
Yeah,
And I think some people were raised to try to change the world before they understood it. And
right.
that's not
معمار
ideal, you know. That's something where, yeah, I don't know. I mean, trying to change something. That's the example that I give to people in that context is like,
آری
I see something that I don't particularly understand about Germany. They say I could try to change it, but it's like, why would you try to change without understanding it? Like, are people this way because it's
آماده
there's a
میکنم
reason? I mean, like,
شکارچی
yeah. As far as like that, being raised to try to change the world is kind of like.
آری
If you don't understand something, why try to reinvent a wheel?
Mhm.
And if it's not round enough, do you
صحیح
know how to make it?
آماده
Yeah.
I mean,
چی
it's there. We can go so many theoretical ways, you know.
Right.
شکارچی آماده
Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's hold on. I
سلام آری
need something else I need to build something else. I'm trying to figure out like on the menu here. How do I mute the
سلام صحیح
options? Got it. Hold on.
Yeah. All right. So, oh my, I am not playing well at all.
معمار
That's interesting
know.
though. I love it. It's beautiful.
آماده میکنم
Oh no, I have forward gold. Oh no, it's actually not that bad.
چوب برد آری چوب برد
No, I'm getting there.
آری
I'm
شکارچی
pretty
شکارچی
slow with. Oh no, you go there.
آماده
Oh man, it's been so many years since I played with
شکارچی
since I played good old Age.
Good old Age of Empires.
It's a classic, but if you haven't played it in a while and you got used to the cheat codes,
صحیح
Oh my, don't go there.
معمار
I'm just saying, can I just build a car real quick and just kind of
I mean, that would be optimal, right?
شکارچی صحیح
that would be optimal.
میکنم شکارچی
Uh,
آماده
hold on, I need to zoom in.
سلام
Oh,
شکارچی
okay.
آری
So my
صحیح
computer has such nice definition in its own
Mhm.
way
آری
that
معدنچی سلام صحیح شکارچی
I couldn't even see my guys who were standing there. I'm like, no,
Wow,
you do this.
impressive.
And you do that. I had like 2 people. 5 people working. Nice. Right.
سلام
So,
میکنم معمار
So okay, let me kind of just go. I'm gonna get a bit philosophical here for half a second. But when you talk about like, let's say, politics and like political theory and this stuff, there's this you know, anybody who might be listening that
آری
studied or knows about philosophy, and there's this whole idea of like the state of nature. This is beautiful that we're playing Age
Right.
of Empires
Oh,
and starting
cool.
off like this because this whole like state of nature. So like, what would humans be like if they were
Yes. Oh, I
you
love
know
that.
just out in nature? What is their behavior? Do they
صحیح
cooperate or do they fight? Cooperate or compete? What is da 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 da?
Mhm.
And this is kind of like, don't steal my idea because I have to write books about it yet still. But it's precisely like, yeah. The whole state of nature, the one thing that it super ignores is
Mhm.
the person was raised. I mean, some how this idea says, what would humans be like if they were just out in a state of nature, out in
Right.
nature on their own? I'm like, alright, listen, nobody just shows up in nature like, hello. Like, it's like, no. You have to be born, and for that you probably need parents. And then to survive, you have to be raised.
Right.
Therefore, before you talk about how somebody acts in a state of nature, I'm more curious is like, well, what nature was it? Is like, how were they raised? Like, did they have two parents and a fucking saber tooth killed their parent? Is like, whoa, then your state of nature is a little bit different, you know?
Mhm.
So, you know what I mean, like going to this while our people are building things and,
Yes, we are
using
going there.
resources. It's their parents. I mean, I have 5 adults. I'm like, where's the kids? And where are the people's parents here? And like, how did we get to this state of mini nature, you know?
Right.
Anyway, I think that's something that we forget. I mean, if you ask how would people behave out in nature on their own, I'm like, well, how were they taught to interact with other people? And is it really survival of the fittest, where my guys are going to kill each other because I have to survive? Or it's like, well, maybe I need you to survive because you do this, I do that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Okay, so there is. Sorry, I'm also all over the place with my mind, but there is this thing with the state of nature and how is this? Yeah, your reality. So it's the environment, right? That's a difficult thing, and we can definitely and we should definitely relate that back into. Really? Are you really going to do that, I hope? Are you really going to do that? Really? Already? I mean, that's just a bad idea. But you did manage to let me kill my sheep, so that made me really sad. There we go. Oh my goodness, I am not Viper. So let's see, we have these two here. They are going to cut some trees. We have this guy here, and that one is going to go to gold mines. Sorry, Ed, I am also not talking about state of nature, and I think that's a very interesting point. So, do you think that there is a natural state to be in with your family? Because of course there isn't, right? That's the way you are raised kind of shapes your political proclivities, inclinations. Also, I drank so fast that I just splattered some water in my face. How about that?
how about that?
Nice.
I mean, I think, I don't know. I don't think we can talk about such a thing as a state of nature without talking about the context that somebody grew up in and what their state of nature is.
Right. Okay, so state of nature is subjective.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
definitely. Like, what nature and like what's, I mean, like your state of nature, your state of, being isolated might be different from
Right.
mine,
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, I mean, I think the whole conversation about like state of nature depends on like how people were brought up to interact with nature. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like we can go so many ways on.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely can.
No, I know, but I mean, so for example, yeah, I was gonna really go way far off into people's political beliefs based on like whether they are. So for example, like I was just talking to a friend about like being vegetarian and that sort of thing, being vegan and stuff, and like if you think about like how state of nature is like, oh well, like animals are resources. It's like, yeah, but if you're the person who has to turn these resources into food, it's like, yeah, it's not as distanced. And we're in a world where the joke is, for example, Americans are like, oh yeah, I get my, where's your chicken from? The supermarket. Is like, not really, it's an animal. It's a, you're so distanced from everything. And so I think this is also why some people who grew up in farms are very close to the source of like, oh yeah, you have to do
Memo,
things this certain
memo,
way to
memo,
kind of build
memo.
like, you know, the plants and the grazing, the cattle, all this.
Mhm.
So anyway, we can then turn it into like, okay, city parent and rural parents. And you
Right.
can look at this. I wouldn't think I'm stretching by saying rural parents are very conservative. Usually, city parents are very liberal.
There is definitely a that's definitely a thing that's happening. Ooh.
Like, why is it happening, and what is
Right.
like in there? And it's like, well, at the end of the day, it's an issue of like they were raised, what they learned from their parents and stuff. I mean, people who grew up in a small town forever
Amode.
only
Yeah.
know that small town
Memo.
or that
Memo.
area.
Right.
It's, they learn from their parents, and like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's
So no, for sure. But that's more environment rather than parents, right? Or is there something more going on there?
well, the environment that your parents are in is also something. I mean, I have
For sure.
friends who, I mean, well, I have a lot of friends with different family histories, but I mean, you know, if somebody's parents grew up, I mean, even millennials, if they grew up during like the Balkan Wars and stuff, their parents behave a certain way. They see the world a certain way,
Yeah.
and you know,
Memo.
at the end of the day, the environment that your parents are in is also going to affect you, how they raise you. I mean, so going there, so going back to environment. I mean, Mexico, for example, parents were a certain way. They're like, no, you can't go outside. You can't go alone this place because you're in this environment.
Right.
Whereas we go to a certain different environment, and then my parents were different because they adjusted. I mean,
Memo.
we moved to a safer environment
Hmm.
and have them say, no, you still can't go outside. It's like, why? We're not in the same place. We're not. When the environment changed,
Amode.
my parents changed. That's
Right.
my personal story. To other people, if the environment changes, but the
Memo.
family environment or the family parenting doesn't change,
Hmm.
then that's a bit of an issue with the parenting. No, I would say.
Salon. Amode.
Okay. Yeah. For sure. So it's. Ooh. You bring a very difficult point up there because basically, wouldn't you basically just say that we are the product of our environment then,
Salori.
and nothing more than that?
I would definitely not say that because
Ooh.
some people have a tendency to revolt against their environment.
Hmm.
Salon.
They have, you know, you can say like, no, like I'm,
Memo. Amode.
you know, my environment is this, but I choose to be this way. I choose to
Right.
change my environment, and there's people who have more of a tendency to say, even if the environment is this way,
Yeah.
I don't. That's not the environment that I'm, you know,
Hmm.
want to be in. So rather than changing, people change themselves, other people change their environment.
Right. Okay. But they also do
That's
that
also
because of their societal interactions, right? Oh, I hope you are making very poor choices here.
Who is? I am.
I hope he is. No. I hope he was attacking me, and now he has to pay the price by my crossbowman.
Ah. Thanks. I am
Ori.
still trying to remember how
Salon.
to play this game, so
Memo,
don't
memo.
attack me because I'm like, oh, I'm talking about the state of nature here, and my nature is very incredibly brutal.
You're a pacifist.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, guys, no wars, but no walls either.
Yeah.
Just leave me on my.
I just
I'm
want
one
to
of those
build.
people
I
that's.
just want to build an economy and have fun, you know.
Yeah, I'm one of those Papua New Guinea people who's just kind of still here.
That's really cool, though. Oh my. Okay, so
Wood,
I
please.
think. No, I'm not going to give you wood, William III. You can do just fine yourself. Bye.
Salon.
I'm not a very kind multiplayer person. Okay, so we are going to cut some wood there, but more importantly, make sure that we have some farms out because people, you
Amode.
can never have enough farms. It's just like Ed said, right? Having those farms makes you get in touch more with nature and makes you just a bit better, bit more grounded, so you know what's up rather than
آماده صحیح
yeah,
آری میکنم
be
سلام
be out there and
مهمان
be alienated. So also more gold. This one and these.
آماده
سلام
Alright, so how's it going, IHOPE? Are you doing well?
You kind of decimated my villages, but I'm back running.
Okay, that's good, that's good.
آری
There we go. And you, Ed, are you doing well? How's it going?
You know, as a person, I'm doing fine. As a vampire civilization, I think we're still stuck in before the Stone Age. So we're we're getting there. We're not focused on.
آماده
We're happy where we are. Let's just say.
مهمان
Okay, okay, okay. Well, I mean,
آری
small steps, you know? Small steps.
True.
And there we are. Take the time you need. I will also put some pressure on our friendly neighborhood
آماده
computer players.
معدنچی
But I do think it is time for. Ooh,
آماده
oh
سلام
my.
میکنم معدنچی
There we go. More farms.
سلام
More farms.
معمار آری
Yes.
آماده معمار
آماده
Oh, I have missed this game so much. I love this game and I should play it more often.
آماده
I will be honest. Now that I'm slowly like
آری
remembering how to play, I'm like, oh my god, this game. I'm not gonna have a life. Like I didn't buy the PS5, like, but also because like now I remember how much like some of these things are entertaining, and it's like, listen, like anything else in life when I can just
معمار آماده
I don't know conquer big empires and feel accomplished with my life while I'm still having a real life.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's the perfect life game balance, you know? It's just the way. Oh, I forgot to invest in thumb ring. Come on, Mikey. You know better
Wood,
than that.
please.
No, I'm not going to give you wood. Come on. There we go.
آماده
آری میکنم آری میکنم
And here we are. Just going to scout a bit, you know? Make sure.
فرمان
Ah, there we go. Yes. William.
آری میکنم آری حمله
Bit of raiding going on. And here we are. Oh,
آری آری میکنم بجنگید آری میکنم
there we go.
Why did town center not shoot exactly?
حمله
You need to garrison your town folk.
Oh my god.
میکنم
I'm sorry. I will raid
I am
someone else. I will raid someone else for a bit now.
Ah, you remember how to play. That's the problem here.
Well, I have been playing actively online for about a year, and I have a bit of a rating. I am terrible online because that's just a whole different animal to slay,
آری
but
سلام
it's a lot of fun to do.
آماده معمار
Mm, Town watch for those pesky little raiders. And no, why am I doing this? Come on.
آماده میکنم حمله بجنگید آری آری
Saw somebody who I
Oh.
thought was attacking me. I was like, do not dare.
میکنم
Oh my.
آری
Oh, I just
فرمان حمله
realized I need to build more houses. Man, I'd forgotten
It's
these
a
things.
it's a difficult thing, isn't it? Also, I need to. Yes, okay, almost done. That's good. Come on, Mikey, faster with your resources. Oh, you would not fare well. Anyway, so let's see. We have here some more farms to make.
معمار
Are you still able to divide your brain up to talk a bit more about politics, Ed? Or are you really in the game?
معمار
I only need to click somewhere about like building
آری
houses because I don't know exactly where.
آماده
Hmm. Need to build
What
houses?
about?
معمار معمار
Huh?
You need to build more houses, right? That's the whole point.
Wood, please.
Where do I click on this? Because I don't remember the menus here.
آری
Ah, so you click on a villager and you just build. You click on the hammer, the left hammer, and then on the top you have a house.
Oh, it's because I'm
آماده
now
کنم
using too many people here.
معمار
سلام
Okay.
معمار
آری
Yes. Also
Memoir.
you.
سلام
Why am I not
معمار
doing more farms? Come on, people.
معدنچی
Farm.
معدنچی
آماده معمار
I want more farms, people.
معدنچی
Yes, and there we are. Two of those.
آری
Also, might as well build one
Memo.
here. And build one of
Farmon.
these. There we are. So, now, let's do some raiding.
بجنگی.
Oh yeah.
Oh no! Oh no! Don't attack me!
آری. آری. میکنم. آماده.
Oh, they have skirmishers. Great job, AI. Oh, I love how smart the AI has
آری
become.
میکنم. آماده. آری. فرمان. آری. فرمان. میکنم. آری. آری. آماده. میکنم. فرمان. آری. آری.
Alright.
آری میکنم. آماده. حمله.
There we go. Oh, they're not upgraded. Okay, we're good to go.
میکنم. بجنگید.
And here's a war elephant.
فرمان.
I think this is GG, people.
آری. آری. حمله.
Oh, now I see what I did wrong.
آماده. میکنم.
Are you working it out?
آری. حمله.
I think so.
آماده.
Oh.
فرمان. آری. حمله.
Man, it had been so long.
You just, you weren't there yet.
آری.
Yeah.
بجنگید. فرمان. حمله. بجنگید.
Alright, so we are there. Let's build some war elephants. No, actually, no, we're not going to build some war elephants. We're going to the Imp Age. Oh, we're not yet? 800? Come on. Come on. There we are.
آماده. حمله. آری. حمله. آری. بجنگید. آری. حمله.
There we are. So here we go. Yes, war elephant is going to attack these.
فرمان. میکنم. آری.
And oh, we did a team battle. Okay.
Wood, please.
آری. حمله.
Okay. And some of these. So it's really. You know why I like Age of Empires? Because it is so pure. It is really unbridled meta
آری.
and super balanced, and I just really like that.
میکنم. آری. آری.
It just really makes for a great game. So let's see. Oh, oh no, 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 no.
آری. میکنم.
Crap.
بجنگید. آری. حمله. میکنم. آری. بجنگید. آری. آری.
And we need to
حمله.
finish that
فرمان.
one off.
میکنم.
And have some more of those crossbowmen, because if you do enough crossbowmen, they just can't build anything, even with that pesky Kenpole.
حمله.
Just make sure that nothing happens. Okay, and now I need to get rid of that because I am almost
آماده.
going to
حمله. آری. حمله.
get killed by arrow fire for civs.
فرمان.
And great job,
آری.
Ed. You're in the feudal age.
Yay!
آری
subscription, get some more stuff out there. And hello, Yancho the Pancho. Welcome to our
Farman.
app. How are you doing? Crossbows are the shit. They are amazing. Especially as the Persians, because there you have an extra unique tech where you can make get rid of the gold cost. So they are very cheap, even though, of course, the Persians are a half civilization. And we should really actually go into knights at one point. At the same time, I feel that we are very stable and we have a lot of stuff down. And we don't have needs of Arbalest right now. So let's see if we can build another... No, why am I doing that? We don't need a cat ram, we need a battering ram. And maybe just put some war elephants in for intimidation factor. Yes. Okay. How's it going there? And there we are. I think we got this civ down. Amazing.
Nice.
I think this one is down. We have no... Oh, they have a monastery. Okay, so good stuff there. And let's just get this one down as well.
Wood, please.
Okay, I will give you wood. Here, there you go. William III. Have some wood. Yes. Oh, I'm out of stone. I have been neglecting my
معمار
thing here. So let's go there then. Right now we should really build some
سلام صحیح
stuff here. And we are good to go. Alright, people. Now I see that I see that what it means that you've been playing online the past few years. Never knew the community was this alive still. So yes, with Age of Empires 2, there has been a definitive edition, and it was huge. Oh no, they got my war elephant. What have I done? They captured they captured one of my war elephants, and I'm really sad now. I know.
Where?
They captured an elephant. Don't they know that they are protected? Oh, okay.
آری
Oh, I hope. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? But yeah, no, with 2013, the community of Age of Empires 2 was always a bit smaller, but it was definitely still alive, even though the game is now 21 years old. And in 2013, they actually made a fan-based definitive or HD edition to just make it more interesting again. And Microsoft Games picked this game up again and made a definitive edition. They also made Age of Empires 4, which they're still developing, and the community is vibrant and very much alive. It is a hardcore game. It's very difficult, but it's great fun. I'm having a blast. Even though I haven't been playing all that much the last, well, months, with Volt being kind of a time sink, you know. I don't know, how's that with you, Ed? Is no Voltu, no Laifu, or is it not that bad?
So the problem is that now that you got me back into Age of Empires, Volt might have to take a little bit of a backseat because you know, if I'm trying to build a movement, I'm like, first I want to build a whole empire, and if I can prove I can do that, then you know, I've proven myself. So first I have to dominate Age of Empires again. And
Well, I get that, you know.
Yeah,
It just makes sense.
it's true.
Yeah.
آماده کنم
No, yeah. Also, yeah. Fun fact here.
معمار
I'm trying to get food for my people, but I'm failing at that. So
Oh no.
really,
Really?
to work on my
Oh.
no, it's cat food. I think I got them food,
Please.
so we're good.
There we go. Well, I mean, you just the big thing that you need to learn for Age of Empires is you need to create villagers up until 100 villagers at all times and make sure that they are hard at work as well at all times. And once you're able to do that, you're basically set. Also, I have been neglecting my... Oh, that's dumb. I've been neglecting my economy atrociously bad, so I am not doing well there. At the same time, I think we have this down now. Alright, so here we have this. Let's build a little stable because I feel that our friends are building a new base somewhere. Am I right? I hope.
No, totally not. I have lost the game already.
For sure, for sure. I have no doubt about that.
آماده. آری. فرمان. آماده. آری.
There we go. Might as well get some gunpowder out there. And now just build a few stables and get those out. There we go. A Trev and some. Oh, these might do the trick as well. Alright, so. I think that this is really it though. Okay. Doing a bit of architecture, because what kind of empire doesn't do well without architecture, you know?
It's true. It's very true.
Are you doing well, Ed? How's it going?
I am very much in my secluded, as I said, village, or shall I say Papua New Guinea type of community, where we're just doing our own thing, and
I mean,
it's fine.
It looks nice, you know? People having fun, they're enjoying life. What I would definitely recommend you do is make a lot more villagers. Like tons and tons of villagers. Really get that villager count going.
I am trying.
فرمان کنم. آری. آری.
Some of these guys are just very, I
آماده.
don't know.
آری.
They're not
Maybe
that
they don't
fast.
want
Alright.
to get.
Wood, please.
They'll get there. Oh shit.
Yeah, for sure.
آری.
Alright, so let's do some spreading around the world, you know? Get that out there. What is it you guys do for Volt, or did now your Age of Empires addiction have resurged? So why don't you kick off, Ed?
I help with communications in any way I can.
Cool.
Well, I mean, not every single way, because sometimes it's like, well, people have their, social media tasks and all this and that. But yeah, no, I try to help with comms and with events. Right now, it's also been tricky with events because you can't have events unless they're digital events. But
Yeah.
I'm tired of digital events, which is not an awesome situation. So yeah, and so from now, like, I'm gonna try to help a bit more with events and comms, kind of coordinating a bit, so that, for example, when we have this event, people at events know. When events wants to have an event, people with comms help, communicate that sort of thing.
Right. Okay.
I mean, that's
That's cool. So events are mostly online now, right? That's a big thing. But there are still a lot of online events, right? How's are there some events that you might like to list there?
I mean, there's always
Some big ones?
the classic events. So every month there's like a Meet Europa,
Right.
and kind of like monthly events that happen pretty much all the time. So that's where I think it's
Right.
yeah, it's something for everybody to always learn about. More about Volt, more about kind of everything that we're doing, wanting to do.
Right.
And so
Okay.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, that makes sense, right? Yeah, so I am the data analytics lead for Volt, and I make sure that our team makes reports, that we get dashboards up and running for all of Volt, and yeah, we're building a digital infrastructure so that a lot of people get their stuff out, know what they're doing, right? So member reports are really important. Social media reports are also a big thing that we're working on right now. And it's a very difficult but very nice thing to do. It's very gratifying. My team is amazing. How about I assume that's also the case with yours, Ed? I hope so.
Yeah. I'm hoping some of the coast people are listening, so I can be like throw some shade and be like, yeah, they're okay.
They're listening. They're listening. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, but comms people are super awesome. I mean, I think that's also something I'm used to is just having people that are communicative, if that says anything.
معمار
That's where also, yeah, we get used to learning how to coordinate several things and that sort of thing. And so,
Right.
I mean, I think the cool thing is also once you really get to know people and like what they enjoy doing and what different people are like, then I think it's actually like a really cool.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot
By
of
the
sense.
way,
Yeah.
have you already killed my teammate?
I'm very much in the process of killing your teammate, yes.
Because I don't think I can do much more than running around with my villages.
No, I think the game is somewhat over. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry.
All good. I finally a worthy opponent.
Yes.
Yeah, I still don't know why my town center didn't shoot arrows, because that's basically how I lost a lot of villages in the first round.
Yeah.
فرمان آری
Yeah. There we go. Congratulations, Ed. You killed them all.
Well done.
How did this happen?
I'm very happy. No, thank you. This that was nice. All over Europe, yeah. All right, so we are victorious. And how about we see what we can do? So Ed, how did you enjoy it? It's been a while since you played the game, and also I hope how did it go? How should I pronounce your name? It has like that O in there.
You can either call me Hope or just call me Carlo.
Cool. Then let's go for Hope.
Yeah, cool. Gandalf.
Gandalf, yes. No, but awesome. Thank you so much. How did both of you like it?
Nice. I mean, I'm still looking at the map and seeing what other people did, and like, you know what? I was in my very nice, secluded farmy, village, and it was fine. We didn't have any problems. We didn't start any fights, and yeah, so
Yeah,
it's a good analogy for.
You didn't start the fire?
No. We were just living our own very rural life, and this is how we dealt with our lives. I had one guy patrolling forever, and he's like, "Yep, I didn't see anybody." I'm like, "Cool, me neither."
Amazing.
So-
Nice. Nice. Yeah, but you
So, yeah,
also
yeah.
had like the lowest kill unit loss counts. You had 3 units lost, which I find those are nice numbers. That's a
Yeah,
nice
well,
number.
to be fair, I only lost these units because I sent one guy against like a Pumbaa, whatever that animal is.
A lion?
And no,
Oh,
not
you
a
mean
lion.
a hog?
Hog, that's what it was.
A
I
hog,
sent
yeah.
him against Pumbaa, and Pumbaa just farted all over him. So yeah, I lost him.
Nice Lion
He
King
was
reference
gone.
there.
And I thought you could take him one-on-one, and
I would not want. I really would not like to go one-on-one against Pumbaa. Those are ferocious animals, man. Those hogs, amazing.
really glad people learn this the hard way. Let me tell you.
For sure. Also, Yansho the Pancho is congratulating you with your hog adventures. It is basically a bit of Lion King going on, right?
It's true.
Talk about Lion King. That's some politics right there. That's Hamlet. That's Hamlet, you know. With
True.
with little lion usurping the murderer of his father, who's also his uncle. I mean, that's some messed up family going on there.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it was also Lion King also has a bit of a very very scary. I think it is basically genetical politics, where if you're a lion, you're the dominant factor of the savannah. That's some scary supremacist kind of stuff, man.
it's true. And I think another thing that makes it a bit of a kind of, a bit of an issue is, well, the inheritance part. I mean, where it's like, how does, yeah, I mean,
Yes.
like, the two brothers having this whole issue, and it's just like, I mean, yeah, we want to talk back about parenting and stuff. It's like, what did Mufasa and Scar's dad, mom do wrong that, one of them killed the other? It's like, woo,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. That is some scary stuff, man. Because I do have to say, I think that there must have been some issues, like Mufasa being raised to be like the little prodigy, where Scar was mauled and mistreated poorly by his parents, but at the same time yearned for validation, so he didn't leave. Right? I think that might be some Freudian speculation going on. That's allowed because this is the Lion King, and we can go into Freudian speculation here. It's not about actual people.
That's true. Yeah, no. I mean, I think the whole thing with Lion King is there's a lot to unpack there, because there is Mufasa and Scar and their sibling issues, but then there's Simba's issues
Right.
with his parentage, and where it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I was king, but I'm out, and it's just like, well, but should you? I mean, on the other hand, it's like, why should he necessarily have to inherit the throne? You're like, like,
Yeah.
well, he could be Jon Snow and be like, I don't want it, like,
It's
don't want
not.
it.
I don't need it. Yeah. No, for
He
sure.
doesn't. Why does he need to have it? You
Yeah.
know? So
I think that really, yeah. Why would you need it? At the same time, it's such a toxic family, and then you go back and you need to, like, you literally need to kill your uncle, because that's what lions do. You go back to your pride, and then you have to kill all the men there, and you're the only guy. It must be very lonely. I would not want to be a lion, and I would definitely not be the Lion King lion. I think Simba leads a very poor life. I'm sad.
Yep.
And well,
Amen.
and then you get supremacist lineage people with no democratic values anymore. Well, that's scary. We can draw a lesson from here. Teach your children well. Do not abuse them, and maybe you get decent people that make a society run well.
it's true. And again, it's how people are raised to treat other people closest to them and farthest from them.
Yeah. Shall we also do one more little game? I think it should be a small one. It's already almost 11. What's it for you? No? I think it's done time?
Yeah, I mean, like, so for
All
me,
good.
it's a couple other things to take care of.
All good. All good, all good. Then let's switch to the dialogue and do some rounding up then. Whew. Now that was intense, and it made me happy. I see that my hair's gone all wild. I can't contain myself while playing Age of Empires, people. I'm sorry. I just can't. I'm very passionate. I get all enraged. It's a passion. Ooh, oh, there it is. I even have I have a little corona hair fluff going on. Like, it's just pointing out all on the sides, I need to go to a hairdresser, but I haven't been able to. Anyway, back on topic. Ed, Thank you so much for coming. I had a blast. And how about we end up the conversation a bit, because we had a good talk about family. We didn't even talk about siblings. We'd never really gone to that part yet.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about Mufasa and Scar if we need to, but
They are siblings.
yeah, I mean, this is something going back to like what I had mentioned before, where it's the power structure between parents can also be affected by the sibling structure of like who gets the
Right.
who's the favorite. I mean, that's maybe the key. It's like who's the favorite, and it's like nobody has to be the favorite, but when you're a kid, you're always at least implicitly competing for who is the favorite type of thing. And you know, it's like because especially if you're in a fight, it's like, well, whose side are they gonna take between this sibling or this sibling? And at the end of the day, yeah, this is also something that's super interesting, and there's a whole other loads of research about this as well, about having one sibling, two siblings, being the older or the younger, the middle,
Right.
like all this stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, we should have gone on to that as well, but
We should have.
this is a topic that doesn't really end. You know, it's something that
It never really
can
does.
go on forever and ever, because the research is also not very.
It's a very unexplored topic, right? Which is fascinating to me because it is a formative year, and I think it might have to do a bit with the fact that we're such individualists and we say that we are self-made people, and we have total control of our lives, thereby just neglecting our surroundings as contributing factors to what we actually start thinking about. Also interrupting here because Pawnee Boggs has subscribed with Prime, and thank you so much. That's amazing. That's really cool. You've subbed. Awesome. And we kind of need that, people. It's amazing. It will go to the good Volt cause, and appreciate it a lot. So, back on topic. It is
hard to get
difficult.
back on and be like, oh, awesome.
It is a difficult thing, with which is underexplored and should definitely be a lot more about. I do think that anthropologists and maybe some new critical theory academics are looking into this because they work on biographies as narratives to understand people's behavior, to infer political things. So that is a very interesting field of thinking. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I mean, I think this is something I mentioned to you kind of offline, but it's the way that people were raised, especially like, you know, people that were, you know, presidents and this and that. I mean, it's something that it's super interesting to look at because, very quick example, I mean, I mentioned Trump earlier as well, but there is also Obama, and Obama has this whole history with his dad. I mean, his first book was called Dreams from My Father, and it was a father that he didn't really know so well.
Right.
So it's super interesting to see about like political leaders and what their family background was like, what their parentage was like, because, you know, maybe a certain person, I mean, in economics, you would call this adverse selection, where the people who shouldn't strive for certain positions strive for them because it's like, well, they're trying to compensate for something, fill this
Right.
gap they have, but others don't have. You know what I mean? This would be a whole new can of worms that we would open up.
For sure. All right, then let's round this this stream up slowly. Ed, thank you so much for being on this chat and for playing this awesome game with me. It was amazing, people.
I mean, I do this offline sometime.
Yes, let's do that. Other people, be sure to also go into the Volt Europa Discord if you want to play a game. They have a very active community. They play Civilization, anything like that. Draco can actually share that with you all in the chat if you don't have that already. So be sure to do that. And with that, I think we're going to end this stream. So people, have a very great night and see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.